Cyprian Ivanov. Do Scientologists see a connection between the high demands for activity and the eventual amnesty initiatives when people get fatigued, lie, or systems break down? How do they explain the need for periodic amnesties? This is a damn interesting question, Cyprian. You must have dug kind of deep because amnesties are not something that have been issued in Scientology for decades. The last time I remember any kind of amnesty in any form, it was right after the IRS victory, the tax exemption victory, and that was in 1993. When to clarify for everybody, within the world of the Church of Scientology, amnesties were issued periodically under L. Ron Hubbard's reign and a couple times under David Miscavige to celebrate, some big, huge achievement or give, some big tumultuous event had happened and they got over it and everything got cleaned up and the church was celebrating. So let's issue an amnesty and forgive everybody that, was purged or something. And let's get everybody back in the fold and let's get on with things again. That was kind of the spirit or attitude with which these things were presented. And they were infrequent. I think I can count on one hand how many amnesties I saw come down the line over the years. Not a lot. And none, like I said, since 1993. None that I'm aware of. And these would always be issued by command. So it was L. Ron Hubbard or David Miscavige who would issue these kind of things. And the idea is, it's a kind of a recovery type action, a way to get people back in the fold. I was really hoping, we were all hoping, just as a little anecdote on amnesties in Scientology, there is no relationship, by the way, Cyprian, at least not within my experience, between the heavy workload or demand for, all the emergencies and the overwork and all that. There really isn't a whole lot of relationship between that and amnesties. And here's an example of why. When I was on the RPF, we thought that we knew about the basics, the books coming out, all the books and lectures. We'd all been briefed about that coming, and we didn't know exactly when it was going to come, but we knew it was going to be, sooner than later. And we were actually working on renovations projects and various activities that we did to work on the bridge warehouse, work on renovations for various things to make this whole thing happen. And of course, also, we built the call center that all the people ended up sweating bullets 24/7 in. I mean, we worked on that stuff as the RPF. And I was sort of thinking, and there was sort of a little bit of a rumor going around within the RPF that maybe when the basics were released, it would be such a tremendously huge event that Miscavige would issue an amnesty. And that we would all be reprieved or amnestied off of the RPF, because that's what happens when an amnesty happens. Is it could theoretically, unless it said specifically that it was not for RPFers, then such an amnesty, an international amnesty, could clean all of our ethics files, and we'd get off, and we'd be back in the good graces of the church. And wouldn't that be amazeballs? And apparently, there had been some kind of amnesty like this. In fact, they were telling stories about the 93 amnesty, because a couple of the poor sods who were on the RPF with me had been on the RPF in a separate program back in 93. This was like in the mid-2000s I'm talking about now. They hadn't been on the RPF this whole time. They'd been on it back then, graduated it, and then landed back on it. Yeah, that happens sometimes. And I told myself very, very clearly when I got off the RPF in the Sea Org, as a Sea Org member, I told myself, I am never doing that again. I knew people who had gone back to the RPF once, twice, and I was like, nope, I'm not going to be one of those people. If they send me back to this thing, I'm leaving. And that's all there is to it. That's what I told myself, right? So anyway, we thought this amnesty would be issued. Well, no, there was no amnesty whatsoever. It ended up just being this stupid rumor. And they were telling stories about how back in 93, there had been this thing about the coming amnesty, and they had caught wind of this amnesty coming. And they had been working almost 24/7 which for the RPF is completely illegal. The policies on the RPF say you're supposed to be getting 7.5 adequate, number of hours of sleep every night so you can go in session and do the program. And these guys had cast all of that to the wind because they thought in a few days we're going to get this amnesty. And if I'm remembering this right, and I think I am. I could be wrong about this, but what I remember is being told that they worked for like 4 straight days, got hardly any sleep, weren't doing any redemption, in hopes of this amnesty coming down back in 1993, and then the amnesty came, but it didn't apply to the RPF, and so, sorry guys, no amnesty for you. And I think that's true. I don't think the 93 amnesty cleaned out the RPF either. But if not that, then maybe it was some other, situation that I'm confusing with 1993. But either way, that was the last time I know about any amnesty happening within the world of Scientology. And I had thought a couple times over the years that there would be another one issued because of some great big event. Never happened. So, anyway, I hope that's of interest to you.